In this tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at node editing within the software. Now you can see I have a selection of vectors on my screen at present, and to node edit them, we need to come over to the left-hand side of the software here under Edit Objects. We can click on Node Editing Mode. Now it's important to note that the mouse pointer has changed to indicate that I'm now in Node Edit Mode. And you can also access Node Edit Mode by clicking N on the keyboard as the keyboard shortcut. You can also right mouse click on a vector and enter Node Edit Mode that way as well. But for now, we're going to left mouse click onto our vector while in Node Edit Mode, and we can have a look at what that does. Now right away you'll notice I've got some nodes that I can manipulate around my shape. And one of them is in green. That's because this is the start point, the start node for this particular shape. You'll notice it also has a direction of travel. You notice that here there's a little arrow that is pointing to the right or anti-clockwise around this shape. That is the direction of travel currently for this vector. Now what we're actually going to do is manipulate this shape. So if we left mouse click onto one of the nodes and we're going to just drag this up, you notice I've got a floating field there that I can manipulate as well. It's also telling us the current placement of this node. So you can see here I can change this if I want to put it to 1, and let's press enter. And I can also do the same on the other side. I can left mouse click and drag this one up, so you can see how precise you can be by using this methodology. And you'll also notice that in between the nodes here are some midpoints, and you've got midpoints on the right, the left, and the bottom here as well between these nodes. Now, if we actually left mouse click and drag that midpoint, you'll see it actually becomes a node once I let go of it at the top here, and you actually have new midpoints in between your nodes here on this span. So you can see on this span I have a midpoint here, and on this one I have a midpoint over here. Now what if I wanted to actually delete that midpoint, and what if I didn't need that anymore? Well, if I right mouse click onto that node, you'll notice the color of it's changed to white, and I get some options here as well. I've got delete point, which is the one I want, smooth point, cut vector, and make start point, along with some other options down here as well. And you'll also notice that there's a shortcut key next to them, very handy. So if you're a person who likes to use keyboard shortcuts, you've got them listed here as well. So in this case, I need D for delete point. I'm just going to select that one. So left mouse click, and you'll notice it has deleted that node, and it's gone back to the original midpoint that we had earlier. Now to touch on one of the other options for the right mouse click menu, if you right mouse click on the top left node here, you notice there's one here for smooth points. So let's click on that and let's see what happens. And you'll notice that it is now smoothed out that point. So what I can now do is use these handles here to manipulate this curve, this Bezier curve, to make it a shape that I want to. Similarly, if I want to revert that, I can right mouse click and uncheck the smooth point option, and we can manipulate our line back into our straight line version, back to how it was originally. So nice and clear, nice and easy, we've got it back to how it was previously. And we can also manipulate this shape in another way. So we can right mouse click again on the top left node. This time I'm going to choose to cut. So now what I'm doing is I'm cutting this node away from this shape, and I'll do the same on this side. I'll right mouse click and I'll cut. And you'll notice when I do that, the software has recognized that this part of the vector is no longer attached to this shape because I have a green node here. So what that green node indicates is the start point of a shape. And you'll notice that when I drag these points out, I now have a separate vector. Indeed, if I drag this one up, you'll notice that there is a green node on the left here because that is a separate vector, so it has its own start point. This is quite a powerful tool because if you need to at any point manipulate your vectors in such a way that you need to separate them, you can do that from the Node Edit menu. And as I've demonstrated here, you can move these about to make it nice and clear to see that these are now separated. Now, if my workflow required that I needed to move a specific node to a very specific location in X and Y, I can actually do that. If I left mouse click onto a node, you'll notice I get these floating fields, and I can use these to manipulate where this node actually sits. Of course, I can left mouse click and drag this around if I want to, but if I wanted to be a bit more precise with this, I can be. So at the moment, my X value here is 2.4381. I want it to be 2.5, so I'll put in 2.5 and press enter, and I will put it to the exact point you'll notice it's shifted over there. And I can do the same with the Y value. Currently it's 7.6394. I want this to be at 8 at the moment. So if I press 8 and press enter, you'll notice that has now moved that up to 8. And you can do these with the points around your shape as well. So do take advantage of this to try and make your workflow a lot easier for yourself, because this will make it a lot more accurate, so you can use this to your advantage. But for now, we'll also look at some other options with our spans here. So if I right mouse click onto this span, you'll notice I can now change it to a bezier. So if I do that, if I left mouse click or indeed press B for the shortcut on the keyboard, this is now a bezier, and I can now manipulate this shape as I need to create the shape that I desire. So quite a powerful tool there. And again, if I right mouse click on the bottom span here, I can turn this one to an arc. And you'll notice right away that it's turned it into an arc, and again I can manipulate that to the type of arc I need, whether I need it to be quite exaggerated or much more narrow. So really powerful tool there. Now we're actually going to move on to look at an open vector, but before we do that, I'm actually going to draw a shape. And I'm going to come over to one of our shape tools. I'll use draw rectangle in this case. And I'm going to just draw a rectangle at the top here. And what you'll notice is if I press N on the keyboard for node editing mode, I can now edit this live while still in the form for the rectangle. So if I wanted to make any manipulations or changes to the rectangle while in the form, I can do that, and then I can apply those, and then I can go back to hitting escape, and then I can indeed draw a new rectangle after I've done that. So really powerful tool in that you can node edit while you are creating your shape, and then go and create another shape after that as well. I'm just going to close out this form for the moment, and I'm just going to delete these rectangles because I don't need those anymore. And now we'll have a look at an open vector. So let's select our open vector, and let's right mouse click and choose the option of node edit mode just down here. So we're going to go up to the top node at the top here, and we're going to right mouse click that one, and we have this option here to edit a polyline. Now what this will actually do is it will open the create polyline tool, and we can click and create our polylines. I'm just going to quickly make a shape out of this vector, and I will left mouse click, and that is now a closed vector. If I close out of the form, you can see I can now move this around, and it's all one closed vector. If I then right mouse click and click node edit mode, you see it has a single start point because it is a closed vector. So you can see how through node editing you can also then edit a vector to manipulate it, and also close it if it is an open vector. Now let's have a look at some text. So to the right of this vector we have text. Now you'll notice I'm still in node editing mode, and watch what happens when I left mouse click onto the text. You'll notice a warning pops up in the software. Now the software is telling us that because this is text, it is currently a text entity, is not a set of converted vectors. So it's giving us the option here to actually make this into a set of curves or vectors. And I want to click yes, because you cannot node edit text. So let's click on yes. And you'll notice now that I can now manipulate this because it is now a vector. Now if I zoom in just a little bit, I'm going to left mouse click and drag a box over these nodes, and I'm going to select both of those. They're now highlighted. And now what I can do is left mouse click, and at the same time these will both be dragged up as I left mouse click and drag up and let go. And you can see how powerful it is because I can now manipulate multiple nodes at the same time. It's also worth pointing out here that if I was to go back into the text tool with this selected, this wouldn't be recognized as text because it is no longer text. We have transformed this into a vector. Now with our text, we actually showed you an example of manipulating multiple nodes at once, but what if we wanted to manipulate multiple vectors at once? Well, let's come over to the example on the right hand side here. So if I left mouse click onto this vector here, hold shift on the keyboard and left mouse click this one, so now they're both selected. If I left mouse click and drag a box over these two nodes at the top here, they're now both selected. You can see they're both highlighted a different color. Now, if I press H on the keyboard, a line appears, and that is a line to indicate horizontal mirroring. So what will happen here is if I press the left and right keys on my keyboard, you'll see how the nodes move together because they're mirrored. That line in the middle represents a mirrored line, and you can see how you can node edit mirrored with this option. Similarly, if I press escape to come out of node edit mode there, and I left mouse click while holding shift onto the bottom nodes here, and I go back into node editing mode with N on the keyboard. If I left mouse click and drag a box over these 4 points here, and then I'm going to press V on the keyboard, you notice I get a line horizontally because I can now manipulate these nodes vertically. So if I press up and down on the keyboard, you can see how I can manipulate these in real time using that mirroring to get coordinated movements of my nodes. This is really handy if you have nodes that you need to mirror and you want to make sure that they line up properly. So you can see quite how powerful that tool really is. And again, you can press escape to exit out of node editing mode. And with that, that concludes our tutorial on node editing. And of course, we hope to see you in the next video.